GMOs deserve a no. Monsanto deserves a no. But even if, in this last week, their money expenditure, but more than their money expenditure, they're creating this illusion that labeling will increase the price of food. 1 in 8 Americans is anyway not eating. If they think, oh my God, I won't have food, they always play the poor. And this is interesting, that the way they do a divide and rule in society, they make the poor feel they are their benefactors. So in this last week, and Miguel, you're very well placed in this, you have to reach out to the communities that are excluded to say, in fact, voting for Proposition 37 is voting for justice in our food system. It's voting for making sure everyone gets good food, and that we reshape our food system to defend our farmers, defend our right to food, and voting no, which I've heard some of them are doing, including civil liberties groups, are voting no because Monsanto's got to them.
And physicians.
So I really do believe to get this out and say to vote no means to vote yes to a food dictatorship, a food fascism, and food injustice in which no one will be able to grow food because they'll destroy. I mean, what they're doing in Europe right now, I mean, they've sued, I have a whole contribution here, they've sued the biggest seed saver of France for having their own seeds. And that's what they lack. That's the situation they'd like to have. If they get away with no labeling here, they'll undermine the labeling in Europe. If they get away with criminalizing seed saving in Europe, they'll come here to criminalize seed saving. So none of these movements and none of these struggles are isolated struggles. Because Monsanto's won and it's all over. And the only thing I give them thank you for 2 reasons. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be saving seeds. And it is the most fulfilling thing that I've done in my life. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be talking to each other.
Yeah.
On this, I'll just give you 2 little things then. You know, there's so many crops they could do genetic engineering with. Why did they choose eggplant for India? Because India is the center of diversity. And it's like this perversion. Contaminate the crop in its home. So the entire attempt to destroy corn through contamination in the cultures of corn is part of it. You know, this whole issue of leave it to science would be very good if there was science left to itself. If all you have is corporate science, then you kind of got to leave it to that science, then you got to leave it to your common sense. And that's what we have to grow much more of. In terms of the war and the dictatorship issue, all of these industries have their roots in war. When they say they're scientific, their agriculture is scientific, the only science they ever developed was the science of creating weapons of mass destruction. They have no other expertise. They have no other expertise. Now, they fooled us for a century, and the reason I spend time doing this work is I can't take being fooled. They fooled us for a century to believe they have science. No, they have the science of making a pesticide. They have a science of making a fertilizer. They don't have a science of fertility. They don't have a science of pest control. Very different sciences. That science is agroecology. So we're at a cusp. And in this cusp, we're going to change the science of agriculture to be agroecology. We're going to change the decision-making in food to be a food democracy. And we're going to change our paradigm from a monoculture of the mind to the biodiversity and cultural diversity of our lives. And I can absolutely be sure that my next 25 years will not be an uphill task fighting Monsanto, but celebrating the alternatives we will collectively create. Every garden must be a seed freedom zone. and every year from now onwards, 2nd October to 16th October, we did it this year, but every year, let us concentrate our energies together to create our actions for seed freedom and our food freedom. But we work for 5 freedoms: the seed freedom, food freedom, the land freedom, the water freedom, and the forest freedom. Because these are very naturally for us the freedoms that if we can defend these freedoms, then every other freedom flows from it. And in my view, it's the absolute final context between freedom and unfreedom. Yeah? And it's not a one-time concept. It's not just 6th November. It will carry on for long. And we've got to be ready for the long haul. Okay? So don't get disheartened if a few ads mislead a few people. Because you'll still have to do the work to create the education awareness with the people who got misled. I don't think there's any difference between American people, Indian people, European people. We create the societies we are part of. And at the bottom of it are all human beings yearning to be free. And the more we understand that food is becoming the source of the new slavery, seed is becoming the source of the new slavery, the more we will create ways to deal with it. So, 2 little things. Give importance to November 6th, but don't think it's the end.
Right.
Yeah. Much more different.
We all have a right to know
if our food is GMO.
if our food is GMO.
All we want's a simple label
All we want's a simple label
for the food that's on our table.
for the food that's on our table.
Just label it, don't table it.
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 'Cause we all have a right to know
We all have a right to know
if our food is GMO.
if our food is GMO.
Now all we want's a simple label
All we want's a simple label
for the food that's on our table.
for the food that's on our table.
Oh yes on Prop 37.
Yes, on Prop 37.
That's yes on Prop 37.
Yes, on Prop 37.
I'm the person who confirmed Chapella's data in Mexico. I don't know if you know.
I know.
We did all the surveys again and we published. I will demonstrate that we did trying to go like so,